Well, what is up, Discovery? We want to hear from you today. Get those conversations going, throw out those likes and link shares, and grab your coziest blanket, but don't get too comfortable. Because I don't know about you, but quarantine can feel a lot like a Groundhog Day situation. Like you're living the same day over and over again. So what better way to mix things up and to get ready for today than by doing something ridiculous? So today I bring to you a never done before, extraordinary brand new segment here at Discovery called Roll Music.
This is Minute to Win It with Kate.
Well, don't worry. We will start out small and give you time. You're going to need to go to your kitchen to grab a cookie. You're going to want to tilt your head back, put that cookie on your forehead, and shimmy it down to your mouth without using your hands. Whoever gets it there first is the winner. Get ready. Go. Well, I am sorry that I missed that embarrassing moment in person. Can't believe you guys just ate cookies off your face. If you are just joining us, we are playing a fun segment of Minute to Win It. It's new here, and we just wanted to just make you kind of work for your cookie break with that last one. So speaking of cookies, tell us in the chat what you think the best cookie is. Well, look at the time. You know, it seems like this is a perfect opportunity for our new segment today, another one of Roll Music.
This is Minute to Win It with Kate.
You have 1 minute to get as many red items throughout your house. Whoever collects the most items, only red, you will win 1 million virtual high fives. You know, that's the best we got for you. All right, get ready, set, go. Well, congratulations to all of our winners out there. And to those that weren't so lucky, well, I have no words. We can't all be winners, you know. But all right, you know, enough of this clowning around. If you are new today and are tuning in for the very first time, we welcome you. We hope you are already having fun, and stay tuned for some more information coming up here shortly. Well, just when you thought I was running out of ridiculous things, I thought of one more. For some of us, this may still be a fresh wound, but I see it as team building, so I think it's beneficial. This is yet another new segment today called Roll Music.
This is Minute to Win It with Kate.
Well, grab that precious gold throughout your house, aka toilet paper, and try to build the highest tower, but only using your wrist. No hands. Get ready and go. Well, thank you again for joining me, Kate, for today's new segment of
This is Minute to Win It with Kate.
You all truly looked ridiculous, and I can't believe you let me talk you into that. But hey, our service is about to get started, so grab a drink of water, maybe a sweat towel, or wash those cookie crumbs off your face and wash your hands. Stay tuned. We're about to get started.
Well, hello. Welcome to Discovery Online. We are so glad that you guys have joined us today. Before we get started, I just want to share a little story with y'all. So we were having just a meeting with our worship team on Monday night, and Lauren was telling us about a prayer that her daughter prayed. And she said, "Jesus, thank you for the cows. I just love milk." And it was just the sweetest thing ever to hear Lauren tell back this story, to just hear how precious her daughter's heart was in that moment, just thanking Jesus. And you know, in the middle of a difficult time that we find ourselves in, it's hard to praise God in the middle of a pandemic. This week has been a struggle for me, and I know it's been a struggle for lots of other people out there too. But it's these little things. Maybe it's something as simple as a cow that we just need to thank God for in these little tiny things. And we're going to learn a new song this morning. In the first line of this, the first two lines, it says, "Let praise be a weapon that silences the enemy, and let praise be a weapon that conquers all anxiety." And so I just don't want us, including myself, to miss out on this opportunity to thank Jesus for the small things and to use that as our spiritual weapon, to use praise as our spiritual weapon. So let's go on ahead and learn this song together. It's called "We Praise You." Let praise be a weapon that silences
Well, hey everyone, my name is Kate, and I want to personally welcome you. Here at Discovery, we love to create a space where you will encounter God's hope in light of our circumstances and a sense of community. Owning a sense of community in our lives as believers is so important, and there is a perfect opportunity designed just for you to experience just that. Rooted is centered around 7 rhythms that ultimately lead us to a healthy relationship with Jesus. This experience for me has personally refreshed foundational truths of the gospel and has brought me to be a part of an awesome community. Right now, Rooted is completely free and it's online, so I encourage you to sign up today for our next experience. Live at 7 is an awesome way to get connected online as a middle school or high school student here at Discovery. These Sunday evenings create space where students can engage in spirit-led worship and to hear an action-packed message. The next Live at 7 happens on May 17th, and there's always new content for your student to engage with, just like this.
Hey man, want to eat some wings?
Well, that video is releasing Sunday at 8 p.m. over on our YouTube channel. And today, we want to extend a special welcome to all of our first-time guests. Don't leave today by going unnoticed. Ask those questions, jump into a community, and find out about all things Discovery through our Discovery app or at discoverypgh.com. Also, check out the survey link below for a chance to give feedback and to receive an awesome free gift. Well, as always, Discovery community and service is within the DNA of the local church. You can always find ways to give, stay connected, and find at-home resources at discoverypgh.com. Well, today we are continuing our series called Tomorrowland, which has given us the time and the space to think about the hope of the future.
Happy birthday, dear.
What is going on?
Oh,
What?
it's working.
Oh
It's
gosh, is this
working.
happening again?
Yeah, sorry about that. We were just celebrating another birthday here.
Wait, whose birthday? Who are you? What is
I'm future you.
future
Why do
me?
people
This
get
is
so
this
weird
is strange.
about
I don't
this?
believe you. I mean, we look a lot alike,
I'm
but
calling from year 2060 or 2070. Gosh, I don't remember half the time. When you have 12 kids, time kind of gets away from you.
12 kids, that's insane. And gosh, my wrinkles. I need to moisturize. What?
Well, spoiler alert, you get married and have 12 kids. At first it's a handful, and you don't sleep for like 20 years, but the flying 12-passenger vans, fantastic.
I don't know. That seems
It's pretty
kinda
cool, actually. Future, that is. Technology gets crazy, and holograms are a huge hit, and virtual reality becomes reality, and you wouldn't believe the amount of robots roaming around.
Oh, come on. Okay.
Just saying. Anyways, enough about the boring future. Just thought I'd update you on life outside of quarantine. This is 2020, right?
Wait, seriously, this is what the future is like? This sounds like you're just describing like an episode of the
Honey,
Jetsons.
can you speak up? I can't hear you.
Well,
Sing on, honey. I think my hearing aid died
I was
again.
saying, it sounds like you're just describing
What are you saying?
I was saying that it sounds like you. Okay, never mind. Well, what happens next?
That's a really great question. Really is, but that's the number one rule when calling to the present. We can't spoil any
come
major
on.
events. But I just want to encourage you to not lose hope and to always remember to be thankful for the community that God has provided for you.
Well, that's great advice. What happens for my love for music? Can you?
Well, you actually get to tour with Johnny Cash, and well, your kids, they look.
Wait, I can't hear you. What are you saying? Are you, wait, what? Johnny Cash? That's not even possible. Gosh, and that's crazy about the future. That's weird. But I guess it's good to know that we never walk alone. I don't know about you, but I'm grateful for community, and that's what we're focusing on today. So let's jump into our series.
We could momentarily escape from our 21st century lives and fill the room with stereophonic music from another age. A mock-up of a possible future telephone. Now, if I want to see the people I'm talking with, I just turn the button and... The children of the 21st century might be educated by a computer at home. There's something old and familiar in it to remind us that both the present and the future are really merely extensions of the past.
A few weeks ago, I ran across this French futurist inventor named Jacques de Vaucanson. In the 1700s, long before computers as we know them, he was already making robots. In fact, it was so advanced, many people would condemn him for witchcraft. But he was just way ahead of his time. He created a robotic tambourine player and a flute player that could play 12 different songs. But his masterpiece, everyone agrees, was his digesting duck. Yes, it was a life-size duck, and its main process was to kind of take some food in, process it through its system, and produce a product. I know we probably have some kids watching, so I just want to say this as clearly as possible. One of the most famous inventions of the 1700s in France is a robot duck that pooped. The famous critic Voltaire said, "Without Vaucanson's duck, we would have nothing to remind us of the glory of France." Recently, in 2006, an artist created a machine that mimicked this duck and sold its product in little branded bags. And every single one since has sold out. So if you're looking for something to spend that stimmy check on, maybe that. The thing is, this robot was incredibly advanced for its time. For example, it had over 400 parts operating in one wing alone, functioning together in nearly lifelike movement. Vaucanson had been so inspired when he got to know a surgeon who taught him about all of the advancements and their growing understanding of anatomy. He loved the complexity of bodies and obsessively began working to try to recreate them with the materials at his disposal. We've all been hearing the speculation about our new normal ahead of us, and while it's easy to get caught up in the many challenges that are coming up, I love to listen to those few people who are daring to dream optimistically, even in all of this, about innovation and the positive transformation of our world. The ideas and the companies that will emerge, new priorities for family time and neighbor time. I love dreamers like Vaucanson. They see a world as it is, and they think optimistically about what it could become. And then they try their hand at making it happen now. In fact, that's exactly what Jesus was. A man ahead of his time, dreaming about what could be. And he taught his followers to do the same thing. They saw far beyond what was obvious to what was eternal, and it impacted the way they saw everything. For example, the first century Jesus follower, Paul, he wrote to those living in the most powerful city in the world at the time, Rome, challenging them to think outside of the box, to think beyond the obvious. So he writes this: "Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person. By changing the way you think, then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." Don't simply just act the way everyone else around you is. Don't get suckered into their way of thinking or living, but find another source of inspiration beyond yourself and even beyond this life. And he promises this way of thinking will be a key to understanding your purpose. That's something all of us are hungry for, isn't it? Many of us joke, whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, about wanting signs from heaven or from the universe. We want burning bushes and voices from the sky. But here it says this is actually how we can figure out God's will. Our purpose is defined when we start with the end in mind. Now, most translations say, don't copy the behaviors and customs of this world. But what Paul actually wrote was, don't copy the behaviors and customs of this era. He says, let the future inspire the present. There's a new way of living on the horizon where heaven meets earth. The beginning of this new era, Tomorrowland, starts in us as we begin to act like we already live there. So I think Paul has a really specific image in mind. We don't get a ton of clarity around exactly what heaven on earth looks like, but we do get a few glimpses. Throughout the biblical writings, from the beginning to the end, it describes a diverse crowd. Remember those? But not just any crowd. I love especially the way that John of Patmos, the guy that wrote Revelation, wrote about it. He's sitting desperate, alone, isolated in exile on an island. And so God gives him these visions of Tomorrowland to give him a little glimmer of hope. Like this one. It says, I looked again and I saw a huge crowd, too huge to count. Everyone was there, all nations and tribes, all races and languages. Sear this beautiful image into your mind. Matt listed what won't be in heaven the first week. Let me add this. In this kind of crowd, there will be no more masks or latex gloves or elbow bumps or side eyes as somebody sneezes near us. No 6 feet apart, no rude Facebook comments about how well we're abiding by social distancing. It will be a place of gathering, a place for hugs, a place for high fives, for parties, for events. It will even says that we will be heartily singing together like Sweet Caroline, but hopefully a better song. And yes, introverts, there will be plenty of alone time and one-on-one time too, but you've got plenty of that right now. So let us extroverts dream a little bit for a second, because most of us are about to explode. Notice especially how he describes them. Every nationality and culture and country of origin represented. Indian and Salvadoran, speakers of Russian and Japanese, Democrats and Republicans, communists and capitalists, Hatfields and McCoys, Steeler fans, and yes, probably even some Bengals fans. What an incredible picture of humanity in all its colors and cultures standing side by side in community. This is one of the many reasons Christians should never have any problems or be accused of racism or xenophobia. But this is just describing the superficial diversity, right? Can you imagine the many personality profiles represented here, the incredible diversity of talents between genius composers and spreadsheet wizards, the many career paths here, engineers and financiers and chefs and administrative assistants and doctors and maybe even a few lawyers and telemarketers too. Somehow all of these people have found a way to be together, to live together, to work together, to build the future together. From the inside out, Tomorrowland is described as a diverse home of harmony for anyone. So here's the big idea for today, and we'll kind of explain it more as we go. We bring heaven to earth when we embrace our dependence on others, not despite our differences, but within our diversity. So dependency, it's not a word we love, right? We almost only hear it in the context of addiction or enabling relationships. And for the record, that's not what we're talking about today. But regardless, it still makes us uncomfortable, even though it's a perfectly fine word, even a good word sometimes. Why do we feel so weird about this idea of dependency? See, there's something inside of us that desperately doesn't want to rely on anyone else or ask for help. And we'll go out of our way just to do it ourselves or not to trouble somebody else. We'll spend long hours at the office doing things somebody else could do in minutes because we want to prove our value to the company. We don't want the awkward interaction with our neighbors, so we'll go spend money on a ladder we'll never use again just for one project. Or think about all those talk shows that used to be not in kitchens. From Oprah to Fallon, how do those stories of those godlike celebrities go? They were unknown, but then they became famous. They were in debt and penniless and a failure, but then they went from moneyless to millionaires. And if you believe in yourself and you follow your own heart, you can do it too. It's all part of what people in my country, at least, call the American dream. We all want to be self-made millionaires. And yet they all seem to forget the people behind the cameras, the PR specialists, the people in the back hallways ensuring that they become exactly that money-making masterpiece they were meant to be. Many of us live in this cultural delusion of independence. Since the 70s, there's been an exponential rise in people living alone, especially in the more developed countries and more urban areas. People are moving closer together in cities, claiming that they want community, then ironically isolating themselves. One graph I saw said that in Stockholm and in London, nearly 60% of their population is living by themselves. My generation, and the one that's coming up behind us, we keep wrestling over the title for loneliest generation. Probably not something we should be proud of. I can't figure out if it's because we don't want to seem weak or incompetent or awkward to ask for help or to ask to be somebody's friend, but then we'll binge watch the superlative awkwardness of The Office. But we can't seem to tolerate real dinner parties in the real world. I heard recently that many Asian countries have handled self-isolating much better than the Western countries. At least one of the reasons is that there's a much more widespread understanding of an individual's responsibility to their whole community. Here instead, what do the protests say? Blazoned on banners and flags, freedom and independence. Instead of this being about we, it's about me. As one pastor in a recent interview said so well, at a point, freedom goes beyond an appropriate level into almost a tyranny of freedom. Humans need freedom, but we also need community, a social fabric in which to live, to find ourselves in other people, to be known and loved. The thing is, capitalism is built on competitiveness. Neither of those C words are bad words, but they can go hand in hand with another word that starts with a C that is a bad word: comparison. We start worrying whether we measure up. We start wondering what makes this guy or girl better than us, prettier than us, smarter than us, richer than us. We put them down to get ahead, or we put ourselves down and we keep ourselves behind. Especially now, we look around and at each other as we're trying to figure out this new world we live in. We wonder why they still have a job, but I don't. Why they're handling all of this so well, but I'm not. Their family seems to be thriving despite everything going on. They're homeschool mavericks. They've designed new recipes. They've finished all their home projects already, just in time to create that viral sensation. But of course, your game of Monopoly ended last night with your 14-year-old flipping over the coffee table. We're trained by this world to constantly look up or look down at each other. See, as Paul wrote to his friends in Rome, he had this exact nagging issue in his mind. In their rapidly developing city, relationships were dissolving. Their differences racially, economically, politically, and professionally, they were driving them apart. And so he writes this: I give each of you this warning. Don't think you are better than you really are. Be honest in your evaluation of yourselves, measuring yourselves by the faith God has given each of us. So the problem is not that some of them weren't smarter or more talented or more gifted in one area or another. The problem is that it was seeping into their view of each other's value. As soon as we start thinking in these categories, in our personal worth, better or worse, we start killing the connections within our communities. He says this kind of competitiveness, it has to stop. Measure yourselves instead by Tomorrowland standards, where vast crowds of diverse characters will live, work, and party equally. Be inspired not by your own success, but by the vision of the ultimate crowd. I heard a show, I was quarantine binging this week. They said this: evil systems maintain their power when they get good people to turn against each other. What I mean by embracing our dependency is that instead of working against each other, we learn to work together. Instead of our diversity of talents and personalities becoming a point of weakness and contention between us, it starts becoming a strength that takes us beyond ourselves. So Paul goes on to give this vivid new image about how we should live together. And in it, we see that Paul was just as obsessed with anatomy as that robot duck inventor. So he writes this: just as our bodies have many parts, and each part has a special function, so it is with Christ's body. We are many parts of one body, and we all belong to each other. Now, I know this idea probably doesn't resonate super well with many of us right now. Many of us really aren't very in touch with our own bodies. Many of us are spending most of our lives like floating heads on Zoom right now. So I want to give you a small gift and introduce you to my current workout regimen. Exercises made for a time just like this. I know everyone is giving away free classes right now, but I promise this one will become your favorite very quickly. I want everyone in your household ready to be a part of this. So call in all those people that just got up to get snacks, or call that dad back that's doing the dishes in the other room. Are you ready? No, sorry, you don't need to get up. Just take a seat. Let's get that blood flowing.
Tap the toes side to side. Snap the fingers, if you can, side to side. Now, tap the heels side to side. Forward up, pull it back. Let's do two more. Lift that shoulder, pull it all the way back. Last one. Now we're going to do some elbow extensions. This is for your tricep muscle. Reach up, reach down, fully extend that spine and rotate the palms forward and back. Place the arm and very gently lead that elbow around and release. Now place the hand right here on your shoulder. Walk the fingers all the way back, grasp your shoulder and release. Out and around, out. Let's change legs. Circle out and around, out and around. Take a nice deep breath, sweep up, and come down. Good job.
Well, hopefully you're already starting to feel the quarantine 15 melt away. All of those movements, even the simplest ones, take the coordination of nearly thousands of muscles and bones delicately designed to work together for all range and possibility of motion. It's so easy to underestimate how connected each part of our body is until we try a new workout and the next day we discover new sore muscles. We can easily do the same with how interconnected we are. One of the most brutal facts many of us have been facing during this crisis is just how dependent we already are on each other. And the signs are literally everywhere. Like on supermarket shelves, where so many of our daily needs like rice and chicken and, most baffling of all, bottled water are still missing. Or in the shutdown, there's a lot of confusion and debate about what is and what isn't, who is and who isn't essential or non-essential. So almighty Hollywood is shut down, but that weird little company that makes paper clips for hospitals is thriving. And in all the furloughs and layoffs, it's probably become obvious to you on a personal level just how intricately connected our global economy is. But above all of those examples, we've become painfully aware of the incredible network of human connection and contact. The 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon has never felt so relevant. The world is quarantined because of a small incident in the microevolution of a tiny organism in a remote part of the world, and it's flooded its way through our networks. When you shake just one person's hand, it's almost like you're touching every single person on the planet simultaneously. At least that's what Dr. Fauci says. Martin Luther King Jr. says it so brilliantly. He writes this in the letter to Birmingham Jail, from Birmingham Jail. He says, in a real sense, all life is interrelated. All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Like never before in my life or your life has this felt more true. Remember when we used to say, it's my body, I can do with it whatever I want? Now we see how the slightest act of carelessness of your neighbor, your family member, could set off a whole chain of events. We used to say, well, it's not hurting anyone else, but I hope we can all see now how our private decisions have incredible public consequences. Embracing our dependency on each other as humanity, and especially in the church, it's not just accepting a better way of living, it's accepting reality. And citizens of Tomorrowland have the unique advantage of seeing this picture maybe a little bit more clearly than others. Look at how Paul writes about this in another place. He says, I want you to think about how all this makes you more significant, not less. A body isn't just a single part. It's all the different but similar parts arranged and functioning together. And then he gives this kind of grotesque, half-joking image. He says, if the body was all eyes, how could it hear? If it were all ear, how could it smell? As it is, we see that God has carefully placed each part of the body right where he wanted it. See, all the metaphors break down at some point, but I was thinking this week about all the ways that our bodies and relationships are alike. Sometimes we feel awkward in them, but that doesn't mean that we give up on them. The health of the whole body is impacted by the health of each part. When one part gets injured, other parts find ways to compensate. Sometimes the most unexpected parts, or people, play the most important roles. If you put in the intentional time, both bodies and relationships will grow in strength. And then, of course, when it comes to both bodies and relationships, wanting to reproduce is actually a sign of health. I'd encourage you this week to read both Romans 12 and 1 Corinthians 12. Easy to remember. Both of those places, Paul writes in detail more about this metaphor. But let me be clear, probably the most important thing is that when it comes to both bodies and relationships, they should always function together to accomplish goals that are bigger than themselves. So we need each other to build Tomorrowland. We bring heaven to earth when we embrace our dependence on others, not despite our differences, but within our diversity. So that means that people who follow Jesus, they have a crucial responsibility to create connections during this kind of season especially. I promise, you know somebody who's lonely that just needs a phone call. You see somebody walking around your house in your neighborhood every day that's longing for a friend just like you. You can remember someone from work or school or even on Facebook that is struggling to find connection right now. Not only do we need to recognize that they do need us, but also that we actually need them. In a recent seminar, Christian counselor Henry Cloud was explaining our need as humans during a crisis. And his very first point was this: the foundation of human functioning is our sense of connectedness. And if you already have it, then you have an opportunity to give it. Secondly, that means we need you. I know many of you are watching, but not all of you. But whoever you are, even if I don't know you, I do know this about you. I need you. We need you. Society needs you. Your neighbors need you. Our church needs you. Your unique blend of personality, nationality, talent, skills, those things that make you different from us are the things we need. You are what we're missing. If right now you think your experience or talents or value doesn't amount to much, maybe you're a little down because the furlough or the struggle to adapt to this new situation, or you've prided yourself on being able to take care of your family, but you can't fix this. If you're feeling a little weak, insufficient, unwanted, or non-essential, I want you to know you have a part to play in my life and in our world. And if you're new to hanging out with us, let's connect. Hit that connect button. Yes, I mean you. We'd love to meet you. If you've been on the sidelines peering in, get in the chat. Check out our website. Find places to plug in and connect. Lastly, I want to challenge all of us to never forget this hunger for community. I don't care how introverted you are. I know by now you've met your limit. You're hungry to get out. You're hungry to see someone outside of your household, to sit around those fire pits, to go to a nice restaurant, to go get your kids out to the park, to burn off some energy with other kids. You're hungry for laughing around someone else's table. And if you're like me, you're hungry to cheer on the Buccos and the left field loonies. Notice it. Feel it. Accept it. There's a designed need in there. And then don't ever let it go. Whenever our new normal starts looking more like our old normal, instead of avoiding people, let's invite them. Instead of comparing ourselves with people, let's celebrate them. Instead of seeing crowds as an inconvenience, let's see them as a promise of things to come in Tomorrowland. The first book in the Bible shows us a single human in a utopian garden keeping direct company with God himself. He had everything he could possibly want or need, and God still looks and says, "It is not good for this man or any man to be alone. I will make a helper who is just right for him." While the first book of the Bible begins with a man alone in a garden, the last book reveals that in the end, we'll be in a bustling city surrounded by a diverse crowd. Citizens of Tomorrowland were never meant to go on their journey alone. We were meant to build it together.
Well, we're going to continue our worship and go into just a time of communion together. So if you guys have got crackers or juice laying around, go on ahead and get those prepared. For those of you who don't know what communion is, this is just a time where we remember what Jesus has done for us, where we come together as one body and one mind and one heart, like Todd was kind of talking about, and we focus on Christ and him coming to this earth to take our place, to die and to raise again. And we celebrate that because we also get to raise in life just as he did. He's constantly making us a new creation. And so just while we take this time, let's focus on him and on his goodness and on the ways that he sees us and cares for us as a whole. much for joining us online today. If you are new, we hope to connect with you all. So say hey to us in the chat or email us, whatever it may be. We would love to hear from you and get to know y'all. Have a great week.